one thing that I want to share with you is I don't know how much you talk about Catholicism and Christianity as examples for some of your ideas in the left right brain hemispheres and jargon. A lot of what you're saying is encompassed in a symbol called the tree of life through Kabbalah, which is Judaic mysticism. And on the tree of life, the first 3 nodes, which you can go research this on your own. There's a whole lot of stuff in Kabbalah. I've been studying it for years. But the first 3 nodes is like the Godhead, and then it's called Hakma and Bina, and it's a metaphor for exactly what you're describing. For Hakma consciousness is like an ocean of undifferentiated, soupy oneness of creativity and potentiality, and then it gets filtered down and sort of squeezed into the next node of the tree of life, which gives us language processing so we can look at it objectively. And it's almost like conscious ego versus unconsciousness, like language versus left brain, right brain stuff. It's really, really good stuff. You should look into the Kabbalah, Kabbalistic principles if you never have. It could just be another like avenue for you to go really deep into.
I checked it with Aleister Crowley. I was reading him at one point. And he brought it up quite extensively, and I checked it all out. And it's very interesting. I think it like precisely because you have the 2 sides, don't you? And then you have the unity in the middle. So maybe that was them clicking into these 2 modes of perception. Maybe, I'm not too sure, and bouncing like ping pong between them. That's definitely one interesting way to cross it. I've also looked into Hermeticism briefly, and Hermeticism, for example, compared to, for example, Moses's law, which is very direct and like do this, procedural, you know, maybe even left hemispheric, whereas the Hermetic laws are all principle based, and they talk almost like a floozy right brainer, you know. It's like, oh, everything is vibration, and the principle of this, and the principle of vibration, the principle of energy, the principle of this. And maybe that is a sort of example of the 2 forms of perception representing themselves as philosophies, perhaps in some type of sense. I don't know, like this is very, very speculative, obviously, but it's interesting stuff.
It's really interesting. I mean, it's really kind of what we're all about. We're like on the channel, we're always taking this esoteric sort of approach and trying to connect it with philosophy and like normal everyday experience. So, you know, I take a lot of inspiration from you, man. Like, you're doing amazing. I look up to you in a lot of ways, and
thank you, brother.
Yeah, like thanks for coming on to our show. I know it sucks because it's so short time window that we have here, but
short and sweet. We'll be punchy. That's what I'm going to try to do a little bit more now. Well, do you have any last questions, I guess, or anything you kind of want to run me by, or any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I have other questions I could ask. Like one thing is, when I had spoken with you 6 months ago with Isaac, I'd asked you about any, you know, psychedelics and the psychedelic experience, and you kind of gave me an answer where you kind of had like a Jesus. You were like, there was like a dying bumblebee or something in a warehouse, and you picked it up, and you had this insight to being stung, or sort of like a stoic mindedness where it's like you almost self-sacrifice your own personal well-being for the sake of the collective, or whatever that might be, or the sake of this other being. And it really like profoundly affected me, and I had a thought about it for a long time after that. And I guess my question is, because so many of your recent videos are about jargon, Nogganites, and all this stuff you're trying to get away from, you know, anti-book type of rhetoric. My question is, because you say it's so important to get back to the body, because the body roots you in this real reality, and then if you integrate that bodily experience with this heady thing that's going on, you can actually have this holistic view that makes you happy, that makes you strong, that makes you sovereign. When it comes to psychedelics and the psychedelic experience, do you feel similarly to that? Do you feel like people who chase the psychedelic experience for some semblance of truth or wisdom are exactly the same as the noggin jargonites who read books all day with no action? Like, how do you feel that they're synonymous, or do you feel like psychedelics are more akin to that bodily experience that's rooted in some sort of actual?
No. The vast majority of people who I find who take psychedelics are not in a good spot. Now, see, this could be biased about the type of people coming into me, so keep that in mind as well. But I've noticed that, psychedelics tend to mislead people largely. Like, I don't think they, I don't think the things that I see working for people are like very much like, for example, getting your nutrition in order. Actually, more than anything, a foundational perspective on the world. It's like the world is a realm of action, and I'm going to actually go and use this body in order to take tangible actions. I'm going to connect with my emotions and understand what my ambition demands of me, what my frustration demands of me, what my fear and what my bravery demands of me. Connect with these type of things. Release your instincts in some type of sense on a very, very foundational level. I think that is probably the most important thing. And then that unleashes people upon the world in an assertive step forward way, where you're actually understanding through doing. Careless, mocking, forceful. That's how wisdom wants us, because she is a woman and she saves her love only for the warrior, is what Nietzsche said in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And it's precisely that idea. You're clattering yourself up against the world and you're laughing at the world, and the world is punching you and you're standing up anyway and laughing at her. And that's how you learn. It's like you're wrestling with a woman, you know, you're learning through doing, you're learning through taking it on. And what I find with people who take psychedelics is that the vast majority of cases, there's some people who works it with, but they're usually quite well integrated people to start with. And some people can get a very, very hard break on their bullshit from psychedelics, but I don't see it that often. You know, you can get that break by going to a boxing gym if you want and get like smashed right in the nose, and then you'll understand what it means that you'll understand ego humility, you know, in jiu-jitsu just as quick as you will going to the jungle and all that type of stuff. I find that most people, who especially if they take psychedelics in some type of recreational way, their minds are just mush. They're lost, and they have a propensity towards doing the what I would call the absolute worst side of this is the sort of where the jargonizing comes from. Because, for example, you switch on this imagination of yours and you sort of leave the realm of the felt experience, not always, but generally, you will go into this realm of ideas. Now, what is so cool about the realm of ideas is we get to talk about symbols, we get to talk about memes, we get to talk about archetypes, and you get lost in this Pokemon Go world of like collecting all the archetypes or something like this. And this is encouraged by bad use of your mind. And this is then, if you just take psychedelics, it's just like it's putting yourself on steroids and working out in the gym incorrecly.
But
sorry, dude.
And so couldn't the psychedelic? I mean, you got to go right now.
Yeah.
No. I was going to say, okay. I was sort of ranting there a bit. So go on.
No, you're good. I mean,
you're totally good.
This is like, you're good.
I've always felt like psychedelic experiences are kind of like a metaphor for what you're saying, because they do kind of punch you over and over again if you approach them properly. I guess my question is, do you kind of subscribe to the more Alan Watts idea that, you know, you pick up the phone, you get the message, and then you hang up and don't pick it back up? Or do you think that do you think some people are just better off without the experience?
I have literally no strong opinions on it. I sort of like, if I was to sit down with someone and they're like, "Oh, should I take psychedelics? Should I take not?" I'd be like, "Bro, are you a loser? Step one." And if they turn around and say, "Well, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, what's the state of your finances? What's the state of your ability to invoke yourself as a physical presence in the world? Do you know combat sports? How is things with girls? Have you got a creative practice? What are you making in your life?" And if it's like, no, I'm like, "Bro, you don't need fucking psychedelics. You need a slap in the face and get down and fucking do something." The vast majority of people are there. The way the world is right now is it's low thumos. It's got bad, toxic food, and people are coddled and victimized and in a bad place. And when they come in and I talk to people in this type of regard, this is the break I'm pulling. I'm like, it don't fucking matter what you think. Your problems are down to these foundations and fundamentals. The warrior school of life is where you need to start. And that's the sort of the question and the problem and the place you need to kind of go from there. Now, if you get some crazy juicy Chad who does, and he says, "Can I go do psychedelics?" I'm not gonna be like, "I don't give a fuck, do what you want." Yeah, go down to ayahuasca. You probably have a great time. And some dudes do it. And you'll also get these certain types of people. Now, these are rarer, and I don't like people think they're one of these, and this is way rare, and it's not even the thing you kind of should want to do. But these type of people that are very, very, very much like, you know, intuitive, magical types, if you know what I mean. They're very, very colorful minds, very, very colorful way of thinking. I think meme analysis, that dude, he has a little bit of this quality. He's a very, very sort of dynamic way of thinking. It's literally like he's always thinking in pictures. I just know from talking to him, I'd say something to him, and most people would sort of respond back as if they're kind of following the conversation in a sort of, you could say, left brain way, but he's actually imagining responses and then presenting to me the imaginations in that type of sense. So maybe he's that type of quality, and maybe he's the type of dude, he's like, you know, an old seer from the past or an old druid or something like that he can explore this stuff more intimately with psychedelics. But that, like the shaman quality, but like, you know, I wouldn't even prescribe that for him. I would just suggest that there might be those type of people that do this, and maybe that's suitable for them. But I would just stress to say, you're probably not that person. Don't take that risk. Terence McKenna probably thought he was that person, and maybe he was in some sense, but it's not like everything he said was perfect or worked out. It just sounded really cool. And kind of the fundamental thing you want to get down to is like, well, like, what does it all lead to in the end? That's really what it is. Results orientated thinking. That if I was to say anything, I would be like, where's the results orientated thinking? And that's
I've been seeing
that's
that
the
a
one
lot
thing
from you.
You'll see a lot of people be like, whoa,
but it makes so much sense though. It's so real and it's so raw and just like literally it's the truth. It's like that's all, regardless of how much abstraction you can do. Like this is here now. Be here now. Be present. Be mindful. This is like, if you can do this, then everything else will come in flavors and you can enjoy it or not. It doesn't matter because you're right here. This is your life experience. And I see that that's what you're putting out, man. And it's like really, really powerful. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I'm delighted it's hitting home because it's interesting because it is in some sense like on my front, it's a bit of a risk, you know, because you kind of have the audience and like what are the people who are listening to me? It's like, well, they all probably read books. They're all probably really into that side of the thing.
They're all probably taking psychedelics.
They're all probably taking psychedelics. So I'm sort of at the point I'm like, you know, I'm like, am I literally gonna burn
who am
this
I
whole
talking
thing?
to? Yeah.
Am I just, is this like me walking up with a gun and just like shooting at the bottom of the ship? Just like,
I was laughing the whole time because, and again, people might misunderstand like your intention. So maybe it will, but I think in the end it will be good for you. Be like a phoenix from the ashes, if anything.
Yeah, it's honest work, right?